I've spent the last decade of my life becoming a personal development snob. I've consumed hundreds and hundreds of hours of content from people like Mark Manson, David Goggins, Gary Vaynerchuk, the podcast bros like Chris Williamson, Diary of a CEO, anything you can possibly imagine that is related to personal development, whether it's sleep, running a business, improving your physical health, building up your career, building up your communication skills. I've been everywhere. It wasn't just YouTube channels. It was also reading the popular books, Atomic Habits, The Miracle Morning, David Goggins' autobiographies, anything related to how you can develop yourself personally and take your life to the next level. It was a dopamine hit. Every single time I'd consume something, it would just feel like, I was just getting this hit of excitement. It almost felt like I was achieving something. It almost felt like I was actually developing just by consuming the thing. I would be on drives, listening to a podcast on the way to somewhere. I would be going for a walk, listening to something on YouTube or listening to an audiobook. Wherever I would go, wherever I would be doing something where my brain could also be preoccupied, I would opt for listening to something rather than just sitting in silence, listening to my own thoughts and collecting my own thoughts. And as you can gather from this, I spent so much time consuming and listening about personal development, and proportionally such little time actually doing. And after about 10 years of doing this, it finally hit me. I reflected and I realized that the periods of my life where I spent a disproportionate amount of time doing more than consuming, like doing the thing that I was trying to learn how to do from consuming by others, those periods where I spent a disproportionate amount of time actually doing were the periods of time where I had the most growth. Like real growth. Not the false growth that we think we're having by consuming and listening to advice from others. Listening to videos where the title goes something like, I'm 40 now. Here are the top 20 things that I wish I knew when I was 20. Or, I'm 30 now. Here are the top 10 things that I wish I knew at the age of 20 that would have made me successful. Or, here are the 5 things that you need to action immediately before you turn 30. Those kinds of dopamine evoking videos that you just look at the thumbnail, you read the title of the video, and you're just like, this is going to give me the answer. But then you finish that 20-minute video and you feel so excited, and then 2 weeks later, you still feel like shit. So yes, it took 10 years for that realization to come to me, that those few periods in my life where I actually focused more on doing rather than giving a shit about consuming excessively were the few periods where I actually grew a lot. And I'll share with you just one example. Back in, I think it was just the post-COVID period, perhaps about 2021 to 2022, I became very interested in starting an e-commerce business. I wanted to build some side income, and I consumed a whole bunch of ads from different people who were selling their way to build a healthy side income. And Amazon FBA seemed like the most reasonable and practical way. I found a course to learn the basics, and I paid a decent amount of money to learn the basics from that course. But the different thing was that I did do this time was, I did the course, but I spent a full year actioning everything from that course. I got involved with a mastermind, which is basically just being in a group of people who regularly meet and share similar goals to you, so you hold each other accountable. But I went through the whole process. I learned how to design a product. I learned how to build a brand. I learned how to build a relationship with a supplier from China. I imported a product. I put my branding on that product. I learned how to do paid advertising. Like, I actually learned by doing all of these things. And I eventually sold products online. I sold about 300 units of this pretty average product online. But I actually grew from that process of doing. And I realized that it wasn't going through the course where I grew the most. It was doing the thing. And I spent a full year actually doing the thing. And I would argue that if I had not paid $4,000 for that course and instead I just gave it a go, doing the thing without learning from a course how to do things, I probably would have had a similar level of growth. So yes, here I am as a hypocrite creating one of those videos where I'm giving a lesson to my younger self. I'm 32 now, so let's say I'm speaking to my 22-year-old self. There is really only one lesson, one concept that I would want my 22-year-old self to truly understand, and nothing else really matters aside from that. And that lesson is: spend a disproportionate amount of time doing than you do learning. And I mean the kind of learning that comes with watching YouTube videos, consuming educational content, buying courses, reading books. Spend a disproportionate amount of time doing and actually trying and failing than you do learning. Because if you do that, you are going to grow so much more in depth, with so much more quality, so much more faster. It's not that you won't grow at all from consuming and learning and listening to podcasts, etc. You will grow, you will learn, you will acquire knowledge, which is all important. But the quality of that growth is going to be so shallow, so much more shallower than it could be if instead you give yourself permission to make sense. Because when you watch a Mark Manson video and Mark Manson tells you, he shares with you his 40 lessons that he's learned at the age of 40 that he wished his 20-year-old self would know. I guarantee you that if Mark Manson's 20-year-old self actually listened to that video from the future, he would either not actually action those 40 things that his 40-year-old self is telling him, because deep down, he just, even though he's listening to those things, he wouldn't truly believe it because he hasn't gone through it. Or listening to that advice will just be one of the 10 videos he's watched that day, that morning, also sharing more and more advice. He will just be in this phase of listening to advice without actioning it. And so listening to that advice will only continue building that muscle for him to keep listening without taking action. You grow so much more when you actually do the thing. What is growth? Growth is when internally you actually have these changes happening whereby your quality of decision making improves for whatever it is that you're working on. Building a business, making decisions in your day job, making decisions about approaching your health and fitness. Like, for example, making the decision to actually wake up earlier, making the decision to train in the morning, exercise in the morning, making the decision to go to sleep earlier. You learn those things. You start to grow to make better decisions for yourself through trying things and failing and trying things and failing and trying things and failing. Whereas if you watch a video from someone else sharing with you the lessons that they've learned and they're like 20 years ahead of you, the lesson's just going to come in one year and go out the other. Now, I'm not saying don't listen to it. I'm not saying don't be aware. I'm just saying, younger Sheik, if I could go back in time, but I know you're not going to listen to this video because I guess I can't go back in time. Spend a disproportionate amount of time doing over consuming. because that will help you make better decisions. That will help you actually grow. You will grow grit, you will grow awareness, you will grow the ability to make better decisions. But most importantly, you will grow comfort with discomfort. You will grow comfort with failure. And that, I believe, is true growth. You will not grow comfort with discomfort by listening to advice. You will only grow comfort with discomfort by trying and failing. And I'm not talking about hustling and building a side hustle, building a business. I'm talking about anything small. And it's literally the small things that matter. Are you uncomfortable with playing team sport? Do you want to grow and become more comfortable doing that? The only way you can do that, rather than listening to someone give you advice about it, is to just do it. Give it a go. Throw yourself into the deep end. Join a team sport. Do you want to become better at playing the guitar? Don't sign up for a course. Don't start watching YouTube videos. Just buy the fucking guitar and just start playing. Yeah, it's not going to make sense, but just start playing. Just start fiddling your fingers with it. Just do 5 minutes a day and then eventually come around to watching YouTube videos. But train your mind to do the thing before you learn from someone else how to do the thing. Because if you do that, you're going to be training your mind to give things a go without needing permission, or without giving yourself excuses that you can only do the thing once this, and that has happened. So, younger version of me, don't buy the textbooks, don't watch the YouTube videos, don't buy the courses, don't watch the podcast, don't do any of that before you've really given it a go first. And only after you've consistently given it a go, you've worked at it hard for about 1 month to 3 months, and you've given yourself permission to just try and fail and try and fail, only when you've proven to yourself that you're willing to do it and give it a go, then spend a little money or spend more of your time learning so you can optimize, so you can tweak how you do things and do things better. But spend a disproportionate amount of time doing over consuming.